For as long as I can remember, Halo has been a constant in the gaming industry. The presence of its legacy usually echoes throughout the gaming community every 3 years or so. From when we were kids to grown adults, Master Chief and Halo have always been around. The glory days with the original Bungie Dream Team were a special time for all of us. The first 10 years of Halo were quite possibly the greatest run of games in history by a single studio working on a single franchise. There would never be another chance to see the magic of early 2000s Bungie ever again. When 343 Industries took over the helm of the franchise following Bungie's departure, there was a sense that we had reached the end of an era. An old journey had ended and another had just begun. Halo 4 would be the beginning of this new era for Halo. 343 was a studio founded and built from the ground up to shepherd the franchise into the future. It was perhaps a misstep for Microsoft to push Halo 4 to release just 2 years after Halo Reach. Regardless, the choices and direction that 343 have taken over their 10 years of game releases has been a somewhat muddled conglomeration. A lack of a cohesive vision and a constant yearning to push away from the franchise's core identity in favor of pursuing some ambitious and sometimes ill-suited ideas have caused 343's Halo titles to consistently miss the mark. Ironically, even for all their missteps with Halo 4, 5, MCC, and Infinite, each game has gotten at least one or two major aspects of Halo right, while suffering from other issues which ultimately bring down the greater experience. This is coming from someone who still loves much of Halo 4, Halo 5, and Halo Infinite. I've always believed that one day 343 would figure things out and find the perfect middle ground between the old and the new of the Halo franchise. I had hoped Halo Infinite would be that game. I feel like the campaign was a great mix of 343's Halo and Bungie's Halo. The multiplayer gameplay was pretty sound, and the only things missing were the live service and a lot of legacy Halo content. It seems that in light of the recent shakeup of 343's leadership and behind-the-scenes direction, we've come to find out just how many contending development directives were at odds with each other in the background. I'm not suggesting they are incapable of making Halo stories, or that every story they've told is a poor one. It just feels odd to me that the biggest legacy brand in Xbox's history, the IP that has been associated with the console since day one, is being allowed to suffer constantly from a lack of proper game direction. And I'm not even suggesting Microsoft doesn't care about Halo. They absolutely do and will continue to do so. It's just unfortunate that they let the franchise get in this position to begin with. I mean, for all we know, there is no discernible idea when we will get a sequel to Halo Infinite or even a continuation of its open-ended cliffhanger-esque finale. The live service for the game is finally starting to get rolling, but 343 being hit by job cuts seems to have left the studio without a full-size operation. The rumored Project Tatanka is still a ghost in the wind for now. Halo seems like it most likely will have to wait a while before the current Master Chief story is even close to being wrapped up. For me, it's crazy to think how absolutely all over the place the last 10 years of Halo has been. I love Halo, I love the Master Chief, the saga of Chief and the franchise as a whole is a special one which means so much to so many. In my own mind, I can't stop thinking of time and the element it plays in game development. Games take time to make. That's just a fact, a reality we all face when awaiting the release of one of our most anticipated titles. This next part might seem a little sad, but we need to at least talk about it. Master Chief can't continue as a character in gaming forever. Master Chief is not a character you can just recast. Steve Downes is Sierra 117. Given how long games can take to make, he might only have 2 or 3 large-scale games left before he retires from that role, should he ever decide to do so. Halo fans deserve to see Master Chief's story wrapped up and finished in a way the character deserves. Halo 4, 5, and Infinite have all promised a path towards something else, but it seems as if the 3 games have very little in common with each other story-wise, as they only loosely form a trilogy of sorts. This again speaks to 343 having no clear goal or direction for the Chief's saga. I really hope I'm wrong about this, by the way. I mean, we can't keep resetting the goalpost every time a new Halo game comes out. If Microsoft and 343 had worked to properly build upon the established formula for Halo and nurtured its growth, instead of slowly stripping away features or reasons why different groups of people fell in love with Halo to begin with, the franchise and fan base would be in a much different spot. Look, I'll admit that Halo isn't exactly an easy project to take on. It has more expectations of content than any other FPS franchise on the market now or at any point. Halo isn't just expected to have campaign and multiplayer, it's expected to have theater mode, Forge, custom games, file share, customs browser, firefight, campaign co-op, split screen co-op, and loads of legacy social and competitive modes. It might even be too much to ask from any one developer in this day and age. It probably doesn't feel fair for 343 to have to take on all of this, especially when the other FPS IPs don't even have to deal with it. Unfortunately, this is where we are at. This is the absolutely massive burden of Halo's incredible legacy. Halo isn't just one thing, it is the many parts which make up the whole. I have to think it must feel quite daunting for any dev team to have to face such a massive list of expectations. Perhaps there is a way to help rectify the situation the IP currently finds itself in. Given the changes in game development, how things take longer than they did before and are often more expensive than ever before, it would be wise for 343 and Microsoft to consider a new strategy. I'm not over here advocating for 343 to stop making Halo and having another studio take it over. Instead, I'm thinking about the new normal for multiplayer and single-player games in the modern era we find ourselves in. Consider that outside of Call of Duty, most major multiplayer games are all turning free-to-play. Halo Infinite even switched to a free-to-play model. This resulted in a lot of development issues for 343, who now had to build their most ambitious campaign, their most ambitious Forge, and a spiritually rebooted multiplayer all at once. The hurdles of tackling all of this content cannot be easily dismissed. It even led to the cancellation of a promised feature such as split-screen co-op, a mode which 343 said would never be left out of Halo again, after it was absent from Halo 5. Going forward, Microsoft needs to examine how Halo titles are developed. This means that if 343 and Microsoft want to change the way Halo content is presented to consumers, they must also change the method by which it is developed as well. Releasing a multiplayer suite alongside a campaign on a game disc is a lot different from releasing a big campaign and a free-to-play live service all at once, let alone trying to maintain a live service and begin development on a new campaign for Master Chief. Once you've entered a brave new world, you have to think outside the box of the old one. For most big games with tons of content and a live service such as GTA and Call of Duty, more than one team is working on them at any given point. Part of Halo Infinite's shortcomings were a result of its over-reliance on contract workers who were rotated in and out of production across the development lifespan. Rockstar, Insomniac, and Microsoft's own Playground Games are just some of the development companies who have multiple studios under their umbrella. I honestly think it would be wise going forward for Microsoft to invest in a 343 shoot-off studio, whose sole purpose is to develop single-player content for Halo, while the main 343 studio handles development for the multiplayer, Forge, and focuses on building out live service opportunities. You can't have one studio taking on all of these things at once. It's simply not sustainable anymore. Inevitably, this will lead, and already has led, to features and other parts of Halo suffering while attention is paid to other parts. For a live service to prosper, campaign and co-op content must bear the brunt of the cost. Even if 343 wants to start developing a new campaign for Halo, the live service will then require a dedicated team to handle its upkeep and continued development. Whether it requires two 343 studios working on Halo, or two distinct dev teams within 343 completely detached from one another, Halo development desperately needs an adjustment. The problems 343 and the fans are facing now could have been prevented, but sadly, even now as Infinite has received a new season of content, we're still only getting stuff which should have been released with the game at launch, nearly 2 years ago. While I have no doubt we will see Infinite's live service offer up consistently good content, one has to wonder how many of the vast majority of Halo players will return to play it after such a long wait. The place we're in now with Halo Infinite is a much more positive one than a year ago. However, when you couple a decade of 343's missteps alongside a licensed TV adaptation which did nothing but ignore the franchise legacy and disgrace its main character, you are left wondering, how did we get here and how do we move on from here? There's not an easy answer, but one thing's for sure, Halo deserves better. And with that, we've reached the end of the video, and I thank you all for watching. If you did enjoy it, I ask you to consider clicking that like button, subscribing, and hitting that little bell for notifications so you don't miss out on any new videos as soon as they drop. Thanks again, and have yourself a great day.